Queensland Premier joins us now, David Crisafulli. You've been listening there, Dave. We'll get to that in a moment. You've got other priorities at this stage, understandably. What's the latest information that you've got this morning when it comes to the path of Alfred?
Good morning, Peter. Yes, it's continuing to come towards the coast, so it remains a Category 2. It did again last night, spin around on itself, but it's again tracking towards the coast, so that puts it here somewhere into Saturday. So we're starting to see some pretty reasonably strong winds, so 100 kilometres an hour recorded at Coolangatta on the Gold Coast, and we've had some rainfall totals approaching 120 mil at that part of the coast as well. So, look, increasingly during the course of the day, people will start to see those wind speeds pick up in places like Brisbane and the sunny coast as it gets closer. And the real complication, obviously, is what the potential for rainfall in the next few days. So, normally what happens when those systems approach the coast, you see that that band tighten.
Yeah.
This remains really wide. So we're talking about between an area between the sunny coast and beyond the border. So with that, a system of that size can really dump a lot of rain. So there's challenges, right? And we've spoken about it. It was the wind and the waves. That storm surge on high tide with the big wind coming through. It's going to be that rainfall, which we see into the weekend, that can deliver some really big challenges with flooding. But I come back to what I've been saying repeatedly. We've done the preparation, and so too have the majority of Queenslanders. So I've got every faith we'll get through this and get through it well.
Now, look, I'm just looking at its path, Premier, and it's looking like Moreton Island is gonna face the eye of the storm, which is just to the north of Stradbroke Island. Which is a place I visit regularly. It's just a beautiful place, but I'm worried about like those older homes on Stratty and Moreton Island too that could bear the brunt of all of this. Has everything been done as good as possible in those sorts of places?
You're right, Peter. It's a beautiful part of the world, and it is going to be. They're the first Queenslanders that will get it passing over it with its full velocity. Just to give you an indication of how seriously we've taken the islands, we pre-positioned everything from generators to some of those key health staff in those locations so that we can respond. And ultimately, in these events, the most important thing is that you go from response to recovery, and there just can't be daylight between it. People do need to see being lifted up and helped. We've got 1,200 workers from Energex who are ready, willing and able to just go and reconnect power. So a number of those islands have lost power. We've got 20-odd thousand people on the Gold Coast who've lost power as well. Some of them were reconnected yesterday in parts of the valley, but there's a lot of people without power, and it's likely that will increase because as the cyclone comes through, trees fall on lines, and reconnecting them in a cyclone is obviously not possible for those workers. So they are ready, willing and waiting. And if you want an indication of what Queensland Spirit looks like, there's 800 from the other end of the state who are part of what's called Ergon, and they are ready to return the favour from what happened to them a few weeks ago, and that's really heartening. So, look, we've taken it seriously, overwhelmingly so too have people. Yeah. It will be a big challenge, but it's a challenge that we will get through.
So just on that point of power, you mentioned there the Gold Coast, that we were hearing about 20,000 without power on the Gold Coast. Is that still the case? Is that the latest numbers that you've got, David? Do you have a live look there at the Gold Coast?
Yeah, it is, Pete.
Very grey and troubling indeed.
Yes, indeed. It is, and that figure is correct. And look, there is the prospect that there'll be more. So we have to do all we can to make sure that we get them back up as quickly as possible. And during these events, it's those little things that make all the difference. You're trying to clean up, you're trying to pick up the pieces. Nothing worse than not being able to go to bed and turn the aircon on and having a decent night's sleep. So I can assure you they are focused on it. And to give you an indication of some of the preparatory work we've done, we've even got some of those contractors that go and work with the Ergon crews, and they help remove the vegetation so that they can get in and reconnect. So there's been a lot of planning put into this, and it's important that we do because events like these, they're not unprecedented. But it's been a long time since a cyclone crossed the coast this far south.
This is an interesting shot that we're seeing now of all these Qantas planes grounded at Brisbane Airport. Premier, I mean, look, we just spoke to Qantas last hour. They said things are going to stay grounded until tomorrow night. Given that the eye of the cyclone is going to pass over tomorrow morning, do you expect that to be extended?
Yeah, well, they make their decisions and we give them the information. And repeatedly, I've been saying that as I get it, I give it to Queenslanders, and that includes those businesses and companies that have to make their decision about servicing Queenslanders. And I think overwhelmingly that's the best approach. The idea of this control and command, keep the information, only give out little bits. I think the better option is you give people the info as you get it. We were walking out to do our morning press conference yesterday and we got some updated information, and rather than keep it for the afternoon, I shared it minutes after I got it. And I think if you do that, people do trust the info and they do respond, and we've seen that overwhelmingly. So the Bureau of Meteorology gives the information directly to the airports and the airlines. They work together, and provided they are communicating it with passengers, our role is to give information. They make their decision.
I've just got to ask before you go, I know you've got priorities at this stage, but I was just talking about this to Ross, and you know, we've been covering the story about Star for a while now, but I will ask you if you will allow the Hong Kong part owner to buy the other half of Star to basically save the Star Casino in Brizzy, Premier.
Well, they'll go through a process the same way that anyone who wanted to buy it will. But I'll make a couple of points. And the first is our non-negotiable is that that place stays open during whatever that transition looks like. And we're willing and able partners to whoever wants to invest in Queensland. We are open for business, I can promise you that. But the non-negotiable is that people need to be in jobs, and that place needs to continue to operate.
But you're open to Hong Kong taking full ownership of it?
People will make a bid and they'll go through a process. And our view is that both of those casinos, the Gold Coast and Brisbane casinos, I've heard your comments before about whether or not they're viable entities. They absolutely are, in a place where you're open for business and we're growing and we'll have the eyes of the world on us in the years to come. It absolutely is. What's not good business is when you've got a union called the CFMEU stomping all over the top of people when they're trying to build things, and projects delay in years and they blow out in hundreds of millions. That's when the viability of things fall over. So my message to anyone watching this across the country is you should be wanting to invest in Queensland in whatever way, shape or form. And when we get over the immediate hurdle that we're in, you'll see a state that's thriving.
All right. Premier David Crisafulli, thanks as always for your time.